So, Mr. Renato Simeone, the lead developer and founder of Reza Studios, has now, between the cycles of this year, started a Ask Me Anything, where each beta member got to ask one question, and then he answered it as good of an answer he could give us. And there were a lot of questions and a lot of answers. This info that we got, have been able to tell you. I've been telling it with some few quick points down below in my Discord, which there's a link down below, and it's the discussion Discord, not my YouTube Discord. And I thought, why not make a video on everything, because there's a lot of info and there's a lot of things which you might not know fully or understand. So today, having done a long list, or using the list I have on Discord and using pictures and links on Google, I will be giving you all of the information. So let us start by talking about the V1.7 update. So what he has talked about for V1.7 is that they don't fully know what the actual pros or what actual physics development will be. What they do know is that tire curing, which, as I understand it, is when you put it through heat, it creates bonds in the tire, which makes it harder, and that apparently makes the tire more even, harder, and then also last a bit longer. So that's what they are going to add. Then they're going to also add graining and blistering. So graining here is where small tears and ridges form on the tire surface. This happens when the smooth surface of the tire was off as it rubs on the tarmac. So if you heat it up, and it can create ripples. So that could probably happen with maybe to prevent the abuse of tires in the future, where you add this. So if you abuse a tire, make it too hot and push for too long, then you will have graining. And you also have blistering, where small chunks of tire break away from the main surface of the tire. And this happens when the internal temperature of the tire increases, loosening the rubber compound on the surface and allowing bits of rubber to completely break off. And this is different than graining, since chunks of rubber completely detach and don't fuse back to create an uneven layer. Because if we expand here, you can see here slightly there is a difference in height. Whilst on this picture you can see the ripples. So I assume this will mean prevent, or not prevent really, but make it so you can't really push as hard for as long. And yeah, we have to see about the sliding what will happen. But he has talked about how they have noticed that small changes can make big differences and can actually make tires better. So they are more looking into incremental progress over updates, which won't really perform, or which don't really affect performance. And they hope that they don't have to delete the time trial boards. But if you're going to ask me what I wish for, I generally wish for more, as is happening here, more damage simulation. So you have the damage of the tire, but then also I feel like suspension can get a look at, because the bump stops, as I understand, isn't really fully realistic, because the bump stops in Automobilista 2, the ones you can adjust, are actually packers, and then you can't actually adjust the bump stop, so there is an issue there. And then you have the floor damage, skid damage, a lot of these different damages which you can't really change, or where you can't really think about. So it makes things a bit weirder. But hopefully this with tires and things improves, so you can maybe push and slide a little bit, if that's realistic, for a few laps, and then push 100, and then you can't push anymore because the tires are starting to grain or blister. Then we come to the first semester of 2025 to include rapid-fire updates with content and incremental improvements/bug fixes. And he has said every month. And as of uploading this, the day will be this Tuesday the 18th of February. And as far as I can see it, I obviously can't disclose anything, but in my opinion, as of recording this, do not expect the content update this month. But later on, we will actually talk about what content will arrive this first semester. And as far as I understand, I don't fully know what semester means. Semester. But if we talk about, I'm not going to go on a flight, but semester, yes, 6 months. So until like June. So that will be quite interesting. And some of the improvements include improvements to the AI pit stop logic, but that will be done with time. He can't promise that it will be done within one cycle, so it will take a little while. So hopefully that works. Some major MP issues to have solutions in reach. I've heard this RAM or memory leak issue. We'll find a fix not real soon, but we'll have a fix soon, hopefully. And some other ones I don't really know about. But what I really want is for dedicated server, and this is a lot of, as far as I understand, the dedicated servers, because in MS2, as I understand it, it's very peer-to-peer. So if one guy is bad, then one guy's ping is bad, every person's ping will be bad. But in a dedicated server, as I understand it, if one person's ping is bad, then it means not everyone's ping will be bad. So hopefully they can implement something like that, but then still have peer-to-peer when not having a dedicated server. And then we get to some of the first piece of content which seem to be arriving. Historic Monaco. And in the files, if I recall correctly, it looks like that we will get Monaco from 1988, which has this layout. So if we just open it here, but also just talking about Monaco, this is, as far as I know, the year where he crashed into the wall around here, which in the movie is portrayed as him. Well, it's portrayed sort of correctly, or as I understand it correctly, in the series. Because if I recall correctly, the mechanic said that Senna was in like this state of mind, flow state, where he just did everything as good as he could. And then I've heard a lot of people say he was pushing too hard and crashed, but as I understand it, was actually the mechanic saying something in his ear, which made him exit flow state and then crash. We won't know what's true or not because we weren't there, but that's how I believe what happened. And if we're talking about the track, Saint-Devote is a lot tighter. Piscine, which is the swimming pool section, is a lot tighter too. And also Rascas and Anthony Noakes is also quite a lot tighter and a sort of bigger, because here you can actually go and just cut the chicane basically like that and then go, whilst now you have to go wide. I recommend watching Senna's lap around the Monaco around in this year, because that shows these changes very well. So this is quite an interesting circuit, which is not surprising why it's in Automobilista too, but will be very good to have because it looks like a very fun track. And I think maybe they had walls in the Nouvelle chicane, but I'm not so sure. It was a long time ago I watched the clip. Then also manual grids and reverse grids on one race during a multiple race session to be added to dedicated server. So what is meant by this is you can actually have a grid where you can decide which position each driver will start in, and also be able to do reverse grids. So the guy who got pole will maybe start last, and this will be quite useful to simulate like Formula 2, where I believe in last year or this year, if I recall correctly, in Formula 2 and Formula 3, they had They had one practice session, then a qualifying. Then for the sprint race, they had the top 8 be in reverse order, so the guy in pole starts 8th. If I recall correctly, that's how it is. And then for the main race, the guy who qualified in pole gets to start from pole. Then also, there's no something interesting. There's no exact rule for which car brand's license is hard to get. He talked about a lot of different details about who handles the actual licensing and everything. So there's no clear formula for which car brand will be hard. But I heard, if I recall correctly, actual Lamborghini was quite hard to get because you had to get it through some other person, if I correct, or an agency. I think that was the correct word. But if we check here, yeah, here. Premium brands under these belonging to bigger corporate juggernauts are generally harder to secure, although some such premium brands are very cognizant of the value being in games beyond the financial benefit. And here, yeah, with that said, there's no absolute rule. That's he said. But if we go to here, to Lamborghini, if I can find it in the text. Yeah, Lamborghini is probably the one that proved more demanding, and that was through a licensing agency. So we hope that the hard ones aren't through licensing agencies, because that means that we could have it or could not have them. So that will be quite interesting to see. Now we get into more content. So what we will be getting for historically more are 3 layouts, which I will be talking about. And you also get and they will be released in reverse order. So 05 will be the first one to arrive, then 1988 and then 1971. And the 2005 and 1971 ones will be released with a content pack of cars which raced during that rough era around Le Mans, I think it is. And yeah, why we are not getting 1988 is because we already have Group C cars in the game, and maybe he wants to release them in other packs, or maybe release them in a different way. So that would be interesting. So if we jump here you have modern Le Mans. Yes, we have all of the layouts here. So you can see here, you have modern Le Mans, where you go like that. Then we get into 2005. So if you can see here from me just going, you have the naming here. Virage Corvette is it looks the same. You have a different first sector. So you can see here the first corner looks to be a bit wider, and then the chicane a lot shorter. And then Tetre Rouge looks to be the same, and the Bugatti layout seems to be a bit different, but that's interesting. And then also Virage de Tetre Rouge looks to be a bit tighter. So that's always interesting. And do I have no, I don't have a picture of a car, but think of it, what we are expecting, I believe, are like mid-era GT1 cars. So I believe we found the MC12 in the files and a Z06 or something like that, a Corvette GT1 car. And we have also found, I believe it was the Audi R8. And it's not the R8 I want the R8 TDI, the diesel one, because I love diesel cars, and that one, in my opinion, seems to be a very cool one, because diesel. As Jeremy Clarkson said, the fuel of Satan, which I don't believe in. And now we get to 1988. So you can see here, Descent de la Chapelle is completely gone. It's just a straight line. And then the whole here, the straight looks a bit wider, then the corner looks a little tighter, and then the chicane looks quite tight too, but not super tight. Then there's no difference to Virage de Tetre Rouge, but then Yeah, there's no barely any difference except this, or for this, the rest of the circuit, except for the straight. So after the 1988, they actually added these chicanes in. I don't know what is the proper word for them, but yeah, people call it the Mulsanne straights or the Mulsanne chicanes. Let's just call them that. And why they added them was because the Sauber C9 and some other cars were hitting like 400 kilometers per hour on the straight, which was quite dangerous. So basically they will add this long straight is the main difference when you're talking like layout. You have some other minor differences which you'll have to look for in pictures. But what will be interesting around this track is being able to top speed test the cars, because that will be very fun. And then we get to Le Mans, and also wait, before I go, okay, so for this layout, Virage de Mulsanne hasn't changed, but I believe for the 1971 version, yes, it's straight, so this has gotten a lot tighter. But if we look at the rest of the circuit, Virage de Tête Rouge is gotten a lot tighter. There is no Dunlop chicane. Now it's just the Dunlop corner. And there's a bit of a difference to the Bugatti layout. You have around the corner here, which is a bit longer, and nothing here. And then you have the long straight here. You go down, yada, yada, yada. Go through Indianapolis. But then instead of going to the Porsche curves here, and the SS, you go straight through Maison Blanche, which is where Jules Bonnier died, I believe. And if you don't know, Jules Bonnier, old Formula 1 driver, he was at the head of the GPDA, Grand Prix Drivers Association. He was quite good, and he crashed there and died in, I don't remember what year, but I remember he died there. And then Virage Ford, which is sort of still there, but not really. So that's the main difference. And I believe I don't know if it's in 1971 or which version of the track, because there is a version where there was no barrier for the pits, and I hope it's I believe they put them in 1972, so 1971's version won't have them, which will be quite fun when driving very quick cars around there, because I will definitely try the Group C cars around there, because going as quick as possible is fun. But something I also hope Automobilista 2 will do is this Virage Ford, because it's a very tight chicane, it seems, which isn't very fun on this track. But also, the main difference between this layout and all the other ones, like from Le Mans 66 Ford versus Ferrari, is Virage Forward. That it isn't in the older versions, it's just a straight line. So I hope that with this they release 2 layouts at least, or actually 3, because you have the Bugatti, you have the long main one, and then you can release you can say vintage, or without, how do you say that in French, without Virage Ford, because that means that it will be the ultimate speed track of France, or without thinking about REM, or how you want to say it. And you can also simulate older versions, which is very fun. But then, what cars could we think about coming? Well, as I understand it, here said Group 5 will come, and searching Group 5 comes up with 2 main cars. You have this Porsche, I believe this is the 917K, which was in the movie Le Mans with Steve McQueen, I believe he's called, from 1971. So you can drive the layout and hopefully the car which Steve McQueen drove. And I heard the video of the engine noise of this on TikTok when he was driving around Monza, maybe like a year ago or something, and it sounded beautifully. So hopefully this car gets added. But also, this car, this Lancia, I also figured out was a Group 5 car, but I assume this one was I remember Group 5 was like prototypes for a long time, and then it switched to being based on production cars, if I recall correctly. So I assume this is a more modern version. And you have Pininfarina, interesting. But I hope this Lancia also comes. But we will be talking about Lancia a bit later. And by later, I mean now. Because Renato said we can expect more Audis, as I've already talked about. Lamborghini, I believe we have found Miuras? A Miura or something? If we go to AMS2, things found in files. This is also in my Discord, where we have found, Le Mans 2005 vehicles. We have found the Audi R8, Fiesta Martins, C5 it was. And then the Lamborghini have the Diablo GTR, Diablo SVR, so older cars. I believe both of them or one of them was a racing car. You have the Hurricane GT3 Gen 1, you have the Miura and the Revuelto, which sound very fun, like very fun cars to drive. So hopefully they come with the Lamborghini. Alpine, he has said. So then I obviously assume the A110. I don't know of any really other Alpines, except for the little sort of, I wouldn't call it loophole, but an interesting point, which was Alpine originally was Renault Sport, which was the name for a long time. So all the Formula 1 cars, all the racing cars, which were Renault, were under Renault Sport, which is now Alpine. So I don't know if Renato will say like more Alpines and then just say, we will be releasing the Alpine A110 and then it will release like a GT4 version, a road car, a rally version from a long time ago, a road car from a long time ago, or it'll say, we will release the first turbo Formula 1 car, we will release maybe some modern F1 car. I don't know. We have to see. Hopefully it actually means the Renault Sport too. And then you also have Italian cars, which are not Ferrari, because they have had issues with Ferrari. And if I recall correctly, the real issues were Reza gave them an offer, Ferrari denied the offer, and Renato said he doesn't think it's for money issues, which I obviously don't know if that maybe Ferrari wanted more money, or maybe, just thinking about it now, he knows the cost Ian Bell paid for Ferrari, and maybe some other people how much they had to pay for licensing for Ferrari. So he knows what to pay them, but it all can obviously be just Ferrari saying, no, we don't want to work with you, you have to wait. But then I came up with this interesting theory where you have Ferrari, their, I believe, CEO or chief, some person, very high in the company, Jean Elkann, is a part of the Agnelli family, who are, like, as I understand it, the richest family, one of the richest families in Italy, and they own a large part of Ferrari, and he's in there. But what they do also own is Stellantis, or a big part of it, where John Elkann, again, has a position in, a quite high up position. And the car brands they own, the Italian ones, if I recall correctly, are Fiat, Alfa Romeo, and Lancia. And also Maserati. Wait, we can actually just double check. If we go to Stellantis, and then just check quickly their website. Okay, cookies, English, brands. Here you go. Yeah, they have above Alfa Romeo, which I believe are roughly the same. They own Fiat, they own Lancia, and they own Maserati. They also own Peugeot, but they also own, which one was it? They own one which is already in Automobilista too, which is Citroën. They own Citroën, or what you want to call it. So maybe with this Stellantis contact, they can get in contact with Ferrari. I thought, because from what I've heard with Ferrari, if you go there and say, I want to buy like the news, I want to buy the F80, I believe it is, their newest car. And then they say, no, you can't buy the F80, buy these crap cars, older cars which we don't like, buy them, gain our trust, and then you can buy. So maybe that's what they're saying to Renato, but that's probably just some weird conspiracy theory I have. And then speaking of Lancia and Peugeot and all of those rally brands, he's saying more off-road content will come in the long term. He has also said, which I have later on, that he has said that they're looking into point-to-point racing. So hopefully they might release like a rally stage or something, and maybe not Pikes Peak, but some other just random hill climb. And then they can add it in, and then they can add in rally cars. Because I feel like he said that they might make historic tracks in the long term. So maybe they release some point-to-point race which isn't historic, and then later on just say, oh, we might make a hill climb now. So maybe they can actually make some like Brazilian rally stage, which would be cool if they release some rally stage pack. But then my imagine goes to like you have a Kenyan one, you have a one in Italy, you have one in Germany, you have one in Sweden, obviously I will say that. Oliver Solberg, good job on winning the rally today. And in Brazil you can have. So that's basically what I talked about there. Then you have a very good change, which is rolling starts will apparently get an overhaul, which sounds awesome because I've heard so many bad things about the rolling starts. So it's really fun that they've said, we will fix them. Then he said that there will be a 70-30 split for new cars and tracks arriving being DLC, so 70% DLC, 30% free. And they will also be adding content to old DLCs. What does that mean? Well, I hope it means that they will be adding DPI cars, because I think they were part of DLC. So maybe with some license they can get some DPI cars, but then maybe some GT3 cars, something like that. We will have to see. And now he's gotten to talk into circuits, because he has talked about licensing some old circuits, and he's given out some examples. So first one he said Fractal, which looks like an interesting circuit. They have straight up said no to a license. Then you have Zandvoort, which have said nothing. They haven't replied. And then for the Hungaroring, they don't know who to contact to license it, which I don't fully understand, because they have contact lists and everything on their website, so you can probably ask them or ring them, and also maybe something which a competitor wouldn't do. But you never know if you don't ask. I would personally just talk to, like, if I know a iRacing dev, to see who they contacted for their licensing, or some other game to see who they contacted for their licensing of the Hungaroring. But speaking of circuit, Renato has talked about the tracks he would like in Automobilista 2. And obviously these are would like and not will add. So first off is Zolder, which is quite popular in not Race Room, or I believe it is in Race Room 2, but I believe it's quite popular in iRacing. This chicane, that chicane I believe it is, I've seen in so many videos of some of the popular channels, and by popular I mean like Overtake. So it's a circuit I've seen a lot, never really driven. I don't know how good it is, but can be good, can be bad, I don't know. Then we get to Magny-Cours, which I've seen in iRacing, which looks very cool to drive and very fun. And I believe Michael Schumacher has the record for most wins around there. So that's a cool circuit. Then you have Fuji, where you can have the new circuit layout and the old one, which I really feel like is quite interesting, this layout. I've not really driven it, but I've seen videos of it and it looks quite fun. You have the Mexico City track, which is called Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez, which I have driven in the F1 game, and it is quite fun, but not my cup of tea. You have the Circuit of the Americas, which is roughly the same. It's quite fun to drive, but it's not really my cup of tea. Lime Rock, I have driven quite a lot in old Forza Motorsport, and it is a very fun track to drive. Very simple, not so hard to learn, but also with it being so simple, it makes it critical to know to push it to the limit and know where you can actually gain time. Because if it's a complex track like Nürburgring, then they can actually just, as I see it, you can get a very good lap time even though you screw up somewhere, whilst here you can't really screw up. It's like an oval, you have to go everywhere very quickly. Speaking of ovals, you have Pocono. And Pocono, as I see it, is a very unique oval, because the 3 ovals are based upon 3 different corners. I can't tell you exactly which ones, but I believe this maybe Tunnel Curve is based on like Indianapolis, one is based on Daytona, I think, and the other one, I have no idea. And then it will not just release with the oval layout, but it will actually release with quite a few other layouts. So what we have found is the Pocono Oval, they have 6 road car layouts, and there is a list of which ones they are, but they are in the beta server. You can obviously create a list if you look at it, so that's something you can do. I don't fully know everything. Then you also have Mid-Ohio, which I believe is in Race Room. I have not really seen IndyCar race around here, so I can say if it's good or bad, but I've heard, I think, good things about it. And Portland, which I have barely even heard about, so I can't comment on it. Then what we know is Renato said they have a license for a Formula 1 car from the 50s. And this is roughly how they looked. So they were front-engined, sitting up, big steering wheel, skinny tires. You were sliding quite a bit, as I understand it, smoking a cigarette whilst doing your pit stops, that sort of thing. So quite interesting. And then, talking about ovals, we have 3 generations of US stock cars which will be added. And we don't know if, as I don't fully understand if they will be licensed or not. We will have to see, but the eras are... Okay, so this is not really what I thought it would be. But basically, it will be one from 2023, one from 1992, which you'll see here, and also 1980. So these are quite interesting stock cars which will come. I will be hopefully doing a video on why stock cars should be added to Automobilista 2 in the future. We'll have to see when it gets done. But for you to not get scared, you oval fans, I'm not doing it alone. I am getting help from a oval expert who knows a lot about NASCAR and ovals, so I will have help there. And then let's see what Moy has said. Okay, so he has said that mid-session saved, so saving in the middle of a session or whenever during a session, does seem viable, but it might not be 100% correct. And we'll have to see exactly what that not 100% correct means, but hopefully it doesn't mean like, oh, you saved it when it was a thunderstorm and then you come up and then it's sunny. We'll have to see how it works, but I feel like live track is the issue, and as I see, live track is like water build-up, asphalt, and all of these things. We'll have to see how it looks. And then a car which will come back from Automobilista 2 seems to be this, the Formula Extreme, which, as I understand it, was a car designed based on the 2014, 15, 16 rule sets in F1. So has smaller tires, smaller wings, so basically the Formula Ultimate Gen 1 with less downforce and less performance. So this will be quite fun to drive actually. But there's also hinted at adding more touring cars, because some people were talking about like some touring car race series, which was in Automobilista 1, which is now long gone. And so I believe he said like there are more touring cars, the other cool touring cars to license, except for those in the series, which aren't those in the series. So hopefully he can license a few of the modern ones, like the I believe Alfa Romeo have one. You have a Hyundai. Those are that's about it as I can say, or as I know. They have more authentic race weekends to come for some classes, and including that, I don't know. I don't remember if I said it in the start, but he has said that having a limited set of tires for a certain race for a race weekend will be added, so it will be more like F1. Then we got some other information. We have heard that time trial is hosted through Steam and is limited by it. And then Razer have been trying to get an official license for Stadium Super Trucks, which look like this. And Stadium Super Trucks are quite a fun car racing series to drive because of the jumps and also the cars. So they've been trying to get this, and he worded it quite interestingly. He said why they didn't arrive with V1.5 was because for them trying to get the license. So I assume the license has been going on for a very long time. But now the license talks have stagnated. They don't fully know why. So they've decided that they're going to do their own version of it, and it will be released next update. That's what he has said. So hopefully they will actually arrive next update, which will be cool. And the circuits which have been found in the files are Adelaide, which you can see in the picture, but also Long Beach. And it's the modern Adelaide. So hopefully we get to see Stadium Super Trucks, because they seem like a fun series. And then also you can drive other cool cars on it. I was thinking of the Copa trucks around it. That would be fun. Then if we just see, Ferrari. Ferrari not getting added seems to not be related to Razer's financial proposal. Can just be reputation, because it took like 10 years for Raceroom to get Ferrari. So we'll have to see. Then he said general AI improvements will come, and then hopefully some more default setup options would come. Then he has also shared that they will do more IMSA content. I believe they planned like IMSA content for a few years, or just content in general. An in-session admin tool or in-session admin tools for MP and point-to-point tracks are both planned in AMS2's future. So I've already talked about the point-to-point tracks, and admin tools are basically what I've talked about. Then Charade, a cool circuit, which I think there's a mod of. I'm not sure if it is Charade, but it's not most likely to come to Automobilista 2. It was being worked on before Automobilista 2's release, but they couldn't find a way to license it. And the freelance artist who worked on it dropped it. So we'll have to see what happens there, but hope probably not. Then, as I said, mid-race saves are being looked into and seem viable with limitations, i.e. the weather and track state won't be 100% accurate to what it was during the save. We'll have to see what that means. Then Aston Martin and Razer. So there was a big picture. I don't know if I can find this. Aston Martin Razer. Let's see. Because here, in the November 2021 development update, there was a picture of an Aston Martin in the background. But what the issue seems to have been for it was that they were in advanced talks and very far along in 2020 with them, but there was a pause in them during one of the release pushes, and their contact for Aston Martin left the company. But they're trying again, and they have got in contact with the new representative, so there are obviously no guarantees, but hopefully they will happen. Then they're also talking to Ford, which is interesting. Then Italian, as I've said, and he has also given a whistling emoji to Aussie cars. and we don't fully know what Australian cars he's talking about, but hopefully he's talking about the Volvo S60 V8 supercar, because he raced in Australia. As I understand it, it was quite good too. So hopefully that one gets added. And then also they have more tracks. They are planning to add 48 car capacity to more tracks. And then after that, he took what seems to be a little pause because he didn't fully know. He forgot to answer a few questions. But what it's given us is sort of good and bad. It depends on how you see it. So they're looking to hire marketing people, and they will do less marketing via social media and use YouTube, forums, Steam, and their own portal for it. So what does that mean? Well, in a positive way, Renato will do less talking. So he'll focus more on racing, and you will on the developing, and there will be less promises and less sad people. But also in a negative, you will get less info from Razer. But I feel like they're just moving. People are getting like annoyed. But I feel like this was like the natural progress, where they moved from a small studio who like to just talk to a big studio, or like a larger scale studio, where you have to be like more planned and do more everything. Like you need to know what you're doing. So it seems like they're moving into that stage. So that's actually quite cool. But also talking about the portal, I just want to point back. They said that time trials are limited by Steam, and they might move it over to use their own like website and things, which they did with Automobilista 1 for TT in the future. We'll have to see what happens. But that was the end of all of the information for this YouTube video. It was quite a long video, but hopefully you gathered a lot of information and understand a lot of what's happening in Razer. But if there's anything you want, if you have any questions about the content, or if they are, maybe I get allowed to ask another question, if you want to maybe convince me to ask something, comment down below. And once you're done there, please hit the like button and also subscribe. My next video, we'll have to see what it's on, because as I said, I don't expect Razer to release another update this month, and I expect it to be quite a while until the next update. So we'll have to see when it is, but until then, yeah, we'll have to see what I will upload. Hopefully some fun content which you will like. But until then, I've been Racing Legend. You've been amazing videos. Thank you for watching. Goodbye!